Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we'll trace off this image with a fill to represent the property boundary. So we use the fill tool over here. Okay, so click on the fill. Going through, select the layer that's appropriate. I reckon layer line survey seems to be a pretty appropriate layer to be drawing on. The geometry method, we want this polygon type method, the first one selected, and you want your fill pattern here. Yours probably says a foreground. Change that till it's in the background. Then we can draw a line over the top, and the actual fill itself will just be a clear background. The other thing too is click on show area text, and we'll get a little label showing up of the area of the block of land as we go. So probably starting from this top right hand corner here, click where you think this line intersects that side boundary. I think around about there would be nice, probably slightly more to this side of that, because you can see it steps down over to the right. So I'm going to come more to the right hand side rather than the middle, and click somewhere like that. Now, getting the direction of that line, we know the distance of that line. You can see this label. The distance is 30,030. So 30.03 metres. We're going to type 30,030. But just come over here until you get the direction. So something like this, come past. You just want to get the direction. And I'm sort of lining up through the middle of the step here, I think would be a good way to go through there. So I'm lining up something like that on the screen, going past, and then I'm going to type 30,030 and press enter. Okay, so now this time I'm going to come across out here till it's nice and horizontal on that x-axis there, and the distance is as you can see 68,050, so 68.05 metres, which needs to go in as millimetres. So when you get that snapping to that X horizontal, it's 68,050 and press enter. Now this one is obviously parallel to this other side. So if you hover over the first line you drew until it lights up blue like that, then come back over in this direction until you get a line that you can snap to which says it's parallel to that first line. And the distance, once again, is going to be 30,030 and press enter. And then you can come back to the end point where you started from when your pencil turns black and click just on there, and it now needs to know, because you're sort of doing an area here, I think, it now needs to know where the inside, enter fill area, oh no, it just wants to know where you want to put the text. So that doesn't matter, it can go anywhere. I'll just put it down in this corner here for the moment. Okay, so we've got an area there of 2014 or 2015 square metres or so. Yours might not be exactly the same as mine. Because we're only tracing off this, we're not using an accurate survey. This will be good enough for our purposes though. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is we'll start laying out some grids for the actual building set out. So I'll just bring open the set of sketch plans which you've all got access to, which we're using as the basis for this project. So you can see the site that we've got here in the dotted line, and then the building layout. So let's start laying out, for instance, these grids, the vertical grids, which are coded with X codes, so X0, X1. To set out the first grid, X0, it's probably controlled mostly by the fact that we need some car parking out the front here. Now you'll go through in your compliance studies, you'll go through the Australian standards requirements for the size of the car parks, and you'll find out what the dimensions need to be. So I'll leave that till a little bit later, but in terms of the set out here, I'll let you know that you will find out that with a car park plus an aisle plus another car park, that should fall within 16.5 metres in length. So one car park, one aisle plus another car park should be within the 16.5 metres. So I'm going to push that 16.5 metre boundary for this grid line further into this corner. So we'll move the whole project a little bit further into this corner here. That'll open up a bit more room in this top right-hand corner of the site, which is a little bit tight at the moment. There'll still be plenty of room for landscaping because of the triangular shape out the front here, and we've also got a little bit of landscaping between this first car park that we could develop around the corner through there with some signage possibly and some landscaping. So 16.5 metres, you'll investigate that more thoroughly in your code compliance studies. So on top of here, to start with, I might just set the first location there maybe with one of these guidelines. So if you pull a guideline off from the side boundary here, and when you get a tick on this corner here, so it lines up with that end point, and then you can grab that with the orange move circle and type 16,500. So that'll establish that first guideline there. So we could now go and put a grid element over here, grid element along that line. Now before we do, let's just have a bit of a check here where layers are automatically set up, that's fine. Automatic naming, we'll start the automatic naming at 0 and we'll prefix the automatic naming in this case with an capital X. So and the grids, everything else looks like it's set up okay. The size of the grid, the size of the bubble at 10, that looks okay. So if we just place a grid initially, you know, I might go from just outside the boundary or a little bit outside the boundary there to just inside the boundary a bit like this. We can fine tune that later, and you can see it's been automatically labelled as X0. Okay, so I'm hoping then we can, if we leave the automatic naming, we could then grab that. Now let's have a look at the spacing here first. I'm just bringing up the sketch plan here again. So as you can see here, the spacing grid to grid, and once again you'll look at this in a little bit more detail when you come to do your construction studies, but you can see there's a spacing of grid to grid first of 6235. It's all controlled by blockwork. There's a blockwork wall here. We want to respect blockwork module dimensions, so it's controlled by that, and you'll look at more closely in your construction studies. But 6235, and then it changes to 6160, and there's 4 bays of 6160 and then 6075. So with those dimensions in mind on your sketch plan, let's lay them out, the first one being 6235. Okay, so if we go to put a new grid element in now, so make sure you're on the grid element tool. If you've done this all nice and tidily, the next automatic naming should now be starting at 1. If you haven't, if you've mucked things up and had to undo, it might not be starting at 1, so you can just go and correct that now in this dialog box. But to place the next one, hover and wait till you've got a blue circle at that end point there, and then drag across in the right horizontal direction before you type in 6160 and press enter. And then come down from that point. Now we might as well line it up with the bottom down here. So coming to here until we get a blue circle, and then come across until those two guidelines line up there, and we've got X1 in. You can repeat that process again from this end point, get a blue circle, pull it across in that direction till you get that blue guideline coming up, type the distance, 6160, press enter, and that gives you that location, and come down here to line it up with the bottom down this way. You can come across until you get a blue circle where you can pull up and pull across till we get that intersection point through there, and we need to do that again, so I'll talk you through it again, waiting for that blue circle, coming across to get the guideline 6160, press enter, and then come down, hover and wait to get the blue circle here. When you do get the blue circle, you can come across till you find that intersection, then click there, and we'll do it again. Got to have that blue circle showing up there. I need one more until you get up to X5. I haven't got my dialog box coming up, so I'm going to try that again. Hover and wait to get the blue circle. Pull it across. Wait till you get that dialog box up. 6160. Enter. Come down here. And the same thing. To there. So when you get to X5, 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, that's right. The fifth space is 6075. So this time, hover and wait for the circle, pull across that way, and this is when you get the dial. We need that little box to pop up like that. Yep, 6075. Press enter, and come back through here. Get the blue circle, and there we've got those ones all lined up. So you can escape out of that now, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to see if you got what you expected there, going back to the ruler tool, and we'll just double check. I'm sure that this is, yep, 6160, escape. You'll need to go back to the ruler tool. 6160, that's right. Yep. So I'm just checking all of mine. And this last one is supposed to be 6075. Okay. So mine are all spaced out correctly. So now we'll just do it in the other direction. I'll just figure out what we're going to do here. We'll just zoom out a little bit. Okay, let's go to another size. We might go to 2.1. So we'll do a 2.1 for this one here. Yep, okay, so let's go 2.1 for that one, and our grids are going to be working backwards. Well, I know what we'll do. We'll put the 2.1 in first. So let's grab one of these guidelines here for the moment, drop that on the property boundary, then pick it up and bring it down 2100. Okay, now so that we start working from the bottom up, if I go back to that sketch plan, let's bring the sketch plan back up here at the moment, and the distance between Y0 and Y3. So there's 3 meters and 12 meters is 15 meters, and another meter and a half is 16.5 meters. So if I just move that down here now, 16,500, that'll be where we place the next grid. And that next grid is going to be called, as you can see here, Y0. So I'll go back to the grid tool, change the start to 0, change the automatic grid naming prefix to capital Y, and we'll put 1 maybe somewhere about here. We'll stretch it out to where it needs to be later. So put 1 on that line around about there, and take 1 through to about here just for the moment. And we'll see how that goes. And that's Y0. Okay, so like we said before, the next one is going to be 3 meters, then 12 meters, and then 1.5 meters. So coming back here, we're going to put hover and wait for the circle, come up, and when we get that white box up there, we'll type 3000 and press enter. And then we'll come across, get a blue circle here, and come up until we get that nicely intersecting. And then we want 12 meters. Blue circle, get that. If you don't get that white box, I think I'd be hovering and waiting for that white text box to come up. There, I've got mine there now. So you can see that distance type in and then we get that blue circle and come up to there, and then we need another one 1.5 metres away from there. So blue circle, get the direction with that box 1500, come across to here, get a blue circle, and Y3 is in there. Okay, so we'll just escape out of that for the moment. It's time for me to do a save, so I'll save, and we'll stop that back there at the moment.